Alright, so I have close to 53,000 miles on my truck now. And when I had the new tires put on, Cooper STT Pros, by the way, really like them. When I had the new tires put on, the guys told me brake pads are looking a little thin there, and I agree with them. So we're going to change out the brake pads today. So we got the wheel off. Now we got to take this bolt, and there's one under here somewhere, right around there. Those two have to come out. Nope, back here. Alright, those two have to come out, and then the caliper will come off. Those of you who have seen my video on changing the brakes on my wife's Kia minivan, this really isn't going to be a whole lot different. The parts are just bigger. So let's get started. Alright, so we got these bolts out, and that blue stuff you see there, that's Loctite. They Loctited those bolts in, which on a heavy duty truck makes sense. But what it also means is you have to screw those suckers out all the way. You're going to be on them with a ratchet until the last thread. They will give you a fit. Alright. So we've got our caliper loose here. Alright. Now, so there's one of our brake pads right there. Come out. Yeah, look how thin that is. Yep, got to these babies just in time. Rotor's still fine, nothing wrong with the rotor. So we got that brake pad. And this one. Now, this bottom one, I'm not going to take out just yet because we're putting on the new brake pads, which are thicker, obviously, because they're not worn down. Now, what that means is the gap between the two pads with these two pistons out won't be wide enough to slip back over the rotor. So what we've got to do is push those pistons back in. You can do that a couple of ways. You can loosen the brake line here and push them back in. But anytime I crack open a brake system, anytime I crack open a line, I feel like I really have to bleed those brakes. Anytime you have any chance of introducing air into a brake system, you need to bleed them. My trick for not having to bleed brakes is grab a C-clamp and squeeze those suckers back in. It will just take the fluid that's in these cylinders, push it back up through the tube, back into the system. The system's never open, no chance for air to get in, and you've got room to put your brake pads back over the rotors. So let's take a good look here. Now, so if you can see in there how far out those pistons are. So we're going to squeeze them back in. I'm going to try to do this with one hand and let you watch. So as I turn the clamp, you can see it squeezing the pistons back in. And we'll just turn it until it doesn't turn anymore. Alright, and that'll get them back in all the way. A little bit more. Alright, so the clamp bottomed out. And now you can see in there that pad is almost back to the housing. It's opened up that slot a lot. So we can loosen up the clamp here. Get this guy off. And we can pop out that pad. That was not quite as bad, but it's still pretty worn. Alright. So now we got to put the new ones in. And I don't think I can do that with one hand. So I'm going to put the camera down. Get the new pads in. Oh, and I did get brake grease. Just put a little bit on the back of the pads. It helps stop the brakes from squealing. So let me get that done and I'll be right back. Alright. So we got the new pads in there. Now all we need to do is put it back where it came from. Slide the pads over the rotor. Put the bolts back in. And tighten the ever-loving bejesus out of them. Alright, let's do that. Alright, there we are. Now, got those tightened extremely tight. Now the only thing we have to remember, and just a word of caution to anybody who follows these instructions, is once you get this done, and I've got to do it again on the other side, so once you get this done, you have to remember your pads aren't touching your rotor right now. Remember, you push those pistons all the way out. There's still a gap between the pads and the rotors. Do not move this vehicle until you have pumped that brake 5 or 6 times and you feel it get hard. Trust me, the last time I changed the brakes on my wife's car, I made that mistake and I almost backed into that grain bin over there before I could get the brakes pumped up. And I wasn't going that fast. Don't move the vehicle until you have pumped these brakes and make sure that they're working. But that's it. That's all there is to changing brakes. Changing brakes is stupid easy. And, you know, anybody can do it as long as you got a set of wrenches. And a C-clamp. There's nothing to it at all. But there we go. New brake pads on my F350.